Hi everybody, it's March 14th, 2026. I keep on going back to my thoughts, trying to understand life. And what I keep on the point that I keep on stopping at is that the idea or the concept that not that life is too grand to understand its nature or to understand why it is the way it is. It is too grand to understand it, but that's kind of right on the nose. That's kind of obvious. The reason why I do not worry too much on trying to define what life is or why it is the way it is because it is just, if you could just calculate why life is the way it is, you would need to start with each and every human on this earth, which is billions of people. The number will be in the billions. You would first have to understand each and every one of them to a certain extent to understand why life is the way it is. And you might say that no, you don't have to understand all those people. You only have to understand yourself. But in a kind of relative manner, have been taught, or as we have been told to believe, we share a genome. And so if all of us share a genome, wouldn't it kind of mean that you at least have to account for every other living human being to understand life for even a fraction? Because all of us we all are each other basically. If our own personal genome was rearranged, we could theoretically be anybody. So this just leads me to the conclusion that trying to understand why life is the way it is for me is just futile. What is more important is to live life and see what you can see and do what you can do, and just try to stay in a state where you can receive what you need at any moment, where you could do what you want when you can, which should always be for the good. Because if you do things consistently which are for the good, it's just going to resonate with kind of changing the climate of your spirit to receive more good. So this gets me to thinking about the elusive self. We are taught to learn who we are. We are taught, famously in the Matrix, to know thyself. And yes, this is a good concept to kind of focus on in life, but if you have spent any time trying to pin down yourself, you know that on a volatile day, you could be several different people in the span of a day, and it's not like you aren't cemented in your own spirit, like you don't have a identity or you don't have a spiritual kind of climate that is uniquely yours. It's not that, but it's just that with the nature of life, we cannot pin down who we are necessarily, because we need to change with the tides of the spirit of the world. We need to do different things. We need to think differently. We need to process differently. And so when you try to find yourself through all these changes, you could be like, I could see myself in that, but I don't believe that's exactly who I am. Or I know why I did that, but I don't usually do that, so that's not exactly who I am. So you shouldn't worry too much about not being able to pin down exactly who you are, because just as they say that matter is basically, this is just a theory, but as they say that matter is basically waveforms, and we have more space in us than we realize. That's the nature, part of the reason that the nature of us is the way it is because we have a lot of space in us, and that space allows us to have changes and to have different reflections due to different circumstances. And another thing I could say about the elusive self is that we hear a lot about mental health issues. And so sometimes we could believe that we are literally, and maybe not completely, but literally insane, by how we have dealt with life in the past and how we have blundered and how we have caused our own suffering. So we go to our mental health and we say, yes, that was insane. That was not a picture of sanity. And there are other times where we are perfectly normal in the most extreme situations. We exude confidence. We exude a power of the sanity of our mind to overcome these challenges. And so you start to wonder, what is the nature, who am I, and what is the nature, how does the nature of my mental health apply to me in these different situations? So the elusive self, just as we have stages and we grow in life from childhood to late adulthood, our mental health is not linear in that fashion. There is going back. There is going way ahead. There is going up. There is going down. It's not like it's not like you can't be a child again. Of course you can't be a child again if you're an adult. But if you have been sane for a long time and something happens that throws you off kilter and you need to experience what it feels like to be out of control again, yes, you could go from having a hearty and a healthy mental state back into a volatile one. And the last thing I could say about the elusive self is that the most powerful thing you could do is to try to position yourself as close to the Father, as close as to God as you can. And they tell us God is far away and God is perfect and God has no flaws and God is jealous and God gets angry and God is love. The way you get closer to God, and to be honest, sometimes you won't feel how close you are to God, and that could be the point where you are the closest to God. But to get closer to God in order to gain more from life, as I said, is just elevating consistently, doing good consistently, taking care of yourself consistently, giving, being light, being healthy, promoting things that aren't oppressive and aren't offensive. This isn't about submission. This is about tuning yourself in order to cut out unnecessary suffering. So I hope this helps. Thanks.